Let's start with what you guys see as the future of blockchain gaming. Like, where do you see the space headed, and how are you guys structuring Big Time to be part of this massive move to blockchain gaming?
We think that the future of blockchain gaming, it looks like a seamless transition from Web 2 to Web 3. So a blockchain game that's fun first, blockchain second, that can easily onboard Web 2 users. So no need for a wallet address, no need for gas fees, no need for prior knowledge in the crypto space. You can simply get on, start playing, and if you want to sell your cosmetics as NFTs, you can.
Mm-hmm. Cool, yeah. How do you see like the whole space when it comes to blockchain gaming? Do you see like different games being interoperable? Do you see all these different things connecting and talking to one another, or are they all going to be segmented?
Aspirationally, that's always the goal with the metaverses, but there's like programming and software engineering problems with that right now, which makes it super difficult. But one step in that direction is the ownership and transportability of assets from inside the game.
Yeah, so tell me about procedurally generated dungeons.
That was kind of our way of making sure that we don't have a boring game. Um, I think it's a problem that you see with a lot of Gen 1 blockchain games, as we call them. You're kind of doing the same thing over and over and over again. Like there's no new content and it's boring. So basically what we did is in Big Time, all of the dungeons that are rated are different each and every time you encounter them. Our development team has actually crafted up 5 years worth of gameplay content. So it just kind of goes to show that you're really never going to have the same experience and it will never feel like something that you've experienced before.
So you said about the early access passes, right? When are they going to, be available to everybody to, participate in the giveaway, whether that be on Discord or anything?
Which passes are you talking about?
Or
Are you talking about the Ruby
yeah,
ones?
the Ruby passes.
All right, so our 10-week early access launch period started April 19th. So we're about 3 weeks into it. At week 9 is when we thought Ruby Pass period should start.
All right, and what's the talks of a release date?
We think it's going to take us about 3 months, so somewhere in July, August timeframe. And just to give you a better answer, so somewhere late June, ballpark, June 21st is when I think the Ruby passes will start. But give us a little bit of flexibility. That's kind of the initial plan.
I have a question. I have a series of questions. So I come from a background of World of Warcraft on the PvP, Major League Gaming level, and also PvE being like world first achievements and stuff like that. So does Big Time favor the PvPers as well as the PvEers on the same level, or is PvE going to be superior?
I think PvP is probably the future. It's definitely extremely popular, but PvE is faster to develop and faster to implement and a little bit easier to catch cheating. Having said that, it took us about 2.5 years to make this game, and we only got to PvE. PvP is definitely in the future, but it's a little bit more complicated, particularly when there's NFTs at stake. We've tested some 1v1 stuff, but it's definitely in the discussion for where we could move forward.
Power creep, right? That's like a core thing for many games like MMOs and even dungeon crawlers, right? How are you feeling about power creep and leveling up, the time to level up, the time to kill? But how are you feeling about that today? What's been some of the feedback?
So we were very cognizant of that going into the game, and we designed a game that continuously forces even advanced players to go back and interact with novice players. Basically, your character is tied to a pocket watch, and each pocket watch is at a variety of different tiers. And inside of that individual pocket watch, it's got kind of all your equipment, and you can only level up a pocket watch at a time. So as you switch characters, you kind of, let's say you get up to level 10 on your Time Warrior, well, your Quantum Fixer is still going to be at level 1. You got to go level them back up. But as you switch your pocket watches to higher tiers, you go back to level 1 and you need to start leveling them back up again. So in that way, it's a progressive loop, but increases the rewards as you play those higher tier pocket watches.
I looked at your bio and you handle guild relations and brand management. How do you think about the role of guilds in your game? What might you be doing differently, or what might you be building onto? guilds play such a strong role in this space. They really are gaming hedge funds meets esports organizations, and they are really like the distributors of this space. How are you thinking about guilds in relationship to your game?
It's a careful balancing act because what the guilds want kind of every time is not something that is necessarily best for the players. But guilds are out there and they are a core part of blockchain games, whether you like it or not. And if you look at who our big early initial investors are, they're about half of our Series A funding. So they're there. We do have to kind of accommodate them and build in a system. I talk pretty frequently with the guilds. That being said, we haven't released enough details yet about guild and asset permissioning systems for them to really take a big bite out of the apple yet. But we have noticed they have done a lot towards getting early access passes and testing it out themselves.
And so with LinkedIn, there's a lot of people on LinkedIn who debate me on the efficacy, one, and two, long-term value of guilds. I actually think guilds are going to be here for the long run. I think if you think of guilds like esports orgs are critical to the mission of distributing games in Web 2. And the only difference between a guild and an esports org is one acts slightly closer to a bank than the other. And the reality is both are meshing into one entity. And I see every esports org in the space either buying up a guild, hiring the executives who can run it, or learning how to buy and sell assets. So this is the future, whether you're in Web 2 or Web 3, and that's what it is, in my opinion.
The other one that I had is you said the Korean players reached like level 100 in a couple weeks. Are you monitoring or able to monitor how they do that for exploits and whatnot? Because that was a big thing in MMOs. You could easily exploit things and do things as fast as possible, or get max level in like a day.
Absolutely. I was pretty surprised to see how quickly they leveled up. But one of those players who got there streamed the entire time, and he himself was playing at least 17 hours a day. I'm not sure if he tagged in on those off hours. So it was aggressive we were watching, and there's definitely a high level of skill. I think one of the things they figured out was play challenging levels, or excuse me, adventure zones, and do it in larger groups. And they figured out when you play in larger groups, there's more enemy and then higher chances for drops as well. We've looked at how fast they were able to scale up and making sure that this isn't a game that people can blow through pretty easily. But they're also operating in a pretty constrained environment. Like they're playing one world out of what will be several worlds by the time global launch happens, and they're playing in an accelerated rate. So the Gold Pass NFT drop rate is way higher than it's going to be during normal gameplay. So their results are not symptomatic or emblematic of what's going to happen during the global launch period.
First, I just want to say that I am a hardcore MMO player. I've played World of Warcraft since it first came out, and I continue to this day to play World of Warcraft. I'm excited that there is a MMO-ish game on the blockchain. I was just wondering if y'all are going to have like a open world PvP kind of thing, like World of Warcraft kind of sort of has, because that's what kind of drove me into kind of the MMO.
Yeah, I think we do want to go there eventually. In no particular order. After global launch, we're going to have to go through some patches, I'm sure, and address some things. But there's like 4 places I think we're going to end up growing, and where we go next is going to be driven by community. I think it's either PvP, consoles, mobile, or pairing into like another game. PvP is definitely something we talk about inside the discussion internally. As like a bridge to that, though, we have talked a lot about with esports teams about how you can make it competitive using the current game model that we have. I think we're probably no closer than 6 months to getting to a PvP option. We may end up changing that, but that's kind of my internal opinion.
All right, so I'm a longtime follower of Big Time, and the question I had was, the replayability of the game seems amazing, like you said, with the stopwatches. But my question is, with the enemies, it kind of seems a little repetitive, and other gamers might seem bored after a while. Like, do you have any other enemies planned later down the line?
Yeah, you are seeing the early access. So it's one world, and no player, even those people who have been playing round the clock, have explored every single portal that's out there. By the time global launch comes out, I think we had talked about having 4 to 5 worlds as opposed to 1. and each one has a pretty different feel and gameplay to it. So one of them is, just community focus. It's not combat focused. So if you're into the feel of like the sandbox or Decentraland or something like that, you're going to see that in like one of our other worlds. That's pretty different right off the bat. We've also teased some stuff where there's dinosaurs running around. You have futuristic settings where it's pretty much all just robots and skyscrapers. So those enemy will look different as well. And then to go back to the procedural generation discussion, each time you go through a dungeon, the layout is a little bit different. The loot is different. The enemy is different.
I'm wondering like what you look for in like a small game developing on Web3. Like what are characteristics that you think make Web3 games do well? And maybe internally too, like what do you think it is about Big Time that makes them do well? Like things I think of immediately are like who are the game developers, where do they come from, what's their background, and like how overly ambitious is the game's roadmap. So that's what I wanted to ask about is like what you would look for in like a small game trying to build on your platform or others.
I would say one of the things that kind of gave Big Time an immediate boon was our team. You have the founder of the largest market cap blockchain game starting a new company. He's like, this is the future. Well, I mean, right off the bat, a lot of people take it pretty seriously. Our team with also a relatively simple and good idea, which is make a AAA rated free-to-play blockchain game. When you break it all down, that's really what we did. It was that simple. It's also that difficult. But I would say don't try to go head to head with somebody who's bigger. Don't try and just do what they're doing, but making it a little bit bigger or marginally different. I think you need to kind of run the seams or look in a place where they're not already looking. It's pretty difficult to build a slightly better version of Axie Infinity because they've got years of development and a lot of cash to develop new projects. So if you try and go head to head with them, you're probably going to lose.
How you're thinking about free to play, what the scope of that is. And I would like to ask, are your servers going to extend to places like in emerging markets?
A couple things about free to play. We basically have a scaling server access. So throughout early access all the way up to global launch, more and more servers will come online. And we've actually been pretty responsive to people who have had lagging server connectivity. In some of our markets, we've actually opened up more servers there to make sure that they're having a positive gaming experience. What does free to play mean inside of Big Time? So during global launch, you're going to be able to download the game and play the game without ever having to spend a penny. And you're going to be able to get to level 100 and beyond without ever having to spend a penny. And your rate of getting up to those higher levels is not going to be affected in any way by how much money you spend. Now, if you do want to spend money and get NFTs and craft and upgrade your own, you can do that. You can do that with a wallet. You can do that with a credit card. There's a variety of ways you can do it.